All right, I'm calling the Village of Cross Plains Board of Trustees meeting of April 2025 to order.
Trustee Bratton.
Here.
Trustee Brochus.
Here.
Trustee Borcar. Trustee Borkland.
Here.
Trustee Polakowski.
Here.
Trustee Calvi.
Here.
President Lang.
Here, we stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the village board encourages input from residents and may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. If you're here to speak at the public hearing, then I would wait until that's called up. Otherwise, anybody like to speak? All right, we're good?
Yep, we're good. I don't see any.
All right, we're at the consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to remove? All right.
Motion.
Whoa, I have something to remove.
Sorry,
That's all right. I just,
thought we did that discussion.
no, we
Okay.
remove it now.
Go ahead.
So, item 10. I talked with Tim this morning and he's changed his mind and he does not want to take the seat on the plan commission, so that will be removed. All right. Now we can have a motion unless someone else has something else.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda except for item number 10.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same, so moved. All right, we're at report of village officers. I have nothing to add to today's agenda. Vice President?
And we have some anniversaries of employees. There's Kelly McGuinn. She has 2 years on March 4th. Ray Darrow has 2 years on April 17th. And Matt Hudson has 3 years on April 25th. So congratulations to all. But I also want to thank our community for coming out yesterday for the Murphys. They had a Murphy Strong spaghetti dinner. Feel like we served, well, we're not sure, but 700-ish people. We ran out of food, which was great. And they really turned out. Everybody did. We had a lot of silent auctions. The whole community helped. So I want to thank everybody.
Thank you. Other trustee reports? Village administrator?
Yeah, I have a couple of items. So first of all, I wanted to welcome Matt Cooey, who is our new public facilities director. He's in the back somewhere. Yeah, give a wave, Matt. He's been with us for about 4 weeks now, and doing a really great job getting acclimated. I mean, he lives in the village, so he doesn't really have to get acclimated to the village, but getting acclimated to his new role. So we're very, very glad to have him with us. Another thing I wanted to bring up tonight is that staff have been interested in trying summer hours. So this has been something that a lot of communities around the area do. So it would be, for instance, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 4 is when people would work. And then on Fridays would be an earlier release. So 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we're thinking about trying it from Memorial Day to Labor Day, just as kind of an incentive for the summer. And that could be something that could be revisited. Obviously, if it didn't work, we could go back to our regular hours, but just looking for ways, non-compensation related ways to retain and recruit staff. So that's something, it is in the handbook that the administrator does implement the seasonal hours, but I just wanted to bring that up. we would like to do this from Memorial Day to Labor Day, but are up for any input that anyone here has. But as I said, other communities do it. For instance, Mazomanie closes at noon on Friday year round, Wanakee at 12:30. These are all on Fridays. Black Earth at noon, Mount Horeb at noon. So it's something that's become pretty common, and we'd like to try it out if the board would be okay with that.
Well, we can't take action tonight.
Right.
It's not on there.
Yeah,
Would
so
like
it's
to
kind of
just-
just something I wanted to bring up in front of you all.
Well, if you could bring it up at the May meeting, we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Is this a mandatory thing or a voluntary thing?
So I think it would be department heads could determine whether that suits their employees or not.
Okay, what I'm asking is if someone doesn't want to work that extra hour because of daycare or something, are you forcing them to do it so they can take off early
would be-
Friday, or can someone keep their 8 hours all the way across?
It would be
That's
up
what
to the department head. I think it would be up to whatever works best for that department. So we can have more discussion, but I
Yeah,
wanted to
well-
bring it up.
Yeah, we'll put it on the May agenda.
Yeah, so just something to mull over. Great, thanks.
All right, any village department heads or other reports, Bobby?
I'll just remind everyone that before the May 12th meeting, if you can make sure to come a few minutes early, we'll do our quick convene and adjourn border review. And then our full border review 2-hour will be on August 25th. And that'll be 5 to 7, and then we'll have the board meeting start at 7 that night.
August 25th.
Did you say May 12th?
May
Yeah, the
12th
May
is where we meet just and then postpone it.
But at 6, right?
No, it's at 5:55.
Okay.
So we are going to general business. The first one is the Remington's Outdoor Entertainment Structure, 1821 Main Street. We'll take this in 2 parts. The first is the public hearing. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
I will motion to go into public hearing.
Do I have-
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, roll call. All right, roll call.
Trustee Gabe Kettle.
Yes.
Trustee Bratton.
Yes.
Trustee Paul
Yes.
Trustee Brooklyn.
Yes.
Trustee Borges.
Yes.
It Still says Harmon, change. Did I forget? Barker.
Yeah.
The other B. The other B, all right. Trustee Borger. Oh. Yeah, and then this no.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
They're all,
Yeah.
Brother to Borges.
All right, so we're in public hearing. Would anybody like to speak at the public hearing? All righty, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I will make the motion to close public hearing.
I'll second it.
All right. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. So move. All right, part B, discussion and possible action regarding a general development plan, specific implementation, plan approval for an outdoor entertainment structure. You guys like to come up to the table? Sure. There's a few people that I don't know. I don't remember if this has been in front of the board once before. I know it's been.
Plan.
It was on March.
Yeah, I thought so, okay. All right, wanna just do a quick overview then?
Of the plan?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's a 20-seat outside tiki bar, so to say. That goes in place of where the volleyball currently is. We keep the sand all around it and we got the fence going up and some arborvitae and kind of just an outdoor entertainment spot.
Yeah, just turning what has been a underutilized space for us into something more viable for more of the community than beach volleyball.
all right, anybody have any questions for them?
So this, want to make sure you're gonna switch that to that motion light that we talked about on the back of the building at the plan commission.
Absolutely, we did.
That
Yep.
one light,
Of course.
so it's not on all layer, not
people.
Yeah, pretty much, for sure.
All righty, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the outdoor entertainment structure on 1821 Main Street.
Can I ask you to reword that to the actual general development, to approve the general development plan and specific? Yeah, because it's the whole thing. We should do the whole thing since they had to change that. If you don't mind.
No, I'll make a motion to approve the general development plan and specific information plan approval for an outdoor entertainment structure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So move. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Carly, do you want these now or?
Sure, I can take those. Thank you very much.
All right, we have discussion and possible action regarding approval of the certified survey map drafts, town of Berry.
Yep, I can speak to this one. So Ron Kloss of D'Onofrio, Kotke and Associates is helping Tom and Megan Wangard with a new 2-lot CSM in the town of Berry. The reason that it comes to the village board is because this falls into the village's extraterritorial land division jurisdiction. So the review process is just like our general CSM review process. So the town of Berry approved this rezone. So it's a total of 28.1 acres from A2 to RH3 to create 2 different lots. And so the final step in this approval is here at the village board. And we do say it complies with all land division ordinances in our municipal code. Staff recommends approval and the plan commission recommended approval on April 7th.
All right, I was under the impression they're just moving the lot line. There's always 2 lots and they're just moving one to get bigger. Yeah, they're
Yes,
not
so there's
creating things.
no,
They're just,
yeah, it's still one parcel, but yeah, just divided. So you're moving the line.
do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Do you want me to just say, regarding approval of certified map drafts for the town of Berry, but or do you want more numbers involved?
How do we identify this?
There's usually an ID on.
Right, or I could say for the address of 5228 County Road P.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
Yes, just so
The
we
new
could,
2, with the new 2-lot certified survey map as CSM address of 5228 County Road P in the town of Berry.
perfect. Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. No move. All right, number 3, discussion and possible action regarding Trout Days proposal for Creative Book Studios.
It'll be me again. All right. So this is a proposal. So Derek Look is a local resident and he owns a photography studio who met with the Chamber of Commerce in February and then connected with village staff regarding a photography and videography proposal for Trout Days. So this would be kind of a more professional kind of photography and videography that would happen at Trout Days. So it would cover the event being shot from approximately noon to 4, and the total cost for this endeavor would be a one-time cost of $2,000. The Chamber of Commerce has already pledged to donate $500 toward the initiative, and the Lions have also pledged $500, which is being asked to contribute the remaining $1,000. So this would just kind of breaking it down a little bit more in detail. So it would cover the duck race, so photography and videography of all of these items, the 5K, the groundbreaking of the Lions Legacy Pavilion. I think that would include covering that whole event, kind of as a showcase to the day. Train rides, the casting clinic that's Streamside and the education. And then there'd also be some kind of one-off interviews too with organizers. And I did get some kind of commentary from Kevin Engling, and he said, you know, it's the largest event the Village of Cross Plains has on an annual basis. And the ask is for the village to embrace this as tourism and economic development, and pick up the remaining $1,000 for promotional content that can be used in a variety of ways for years to come. And like I said, Derek Look is a Cross Plains resident. And so as far as where the funding would come from, this is not obviously a budgeted item. And since we don't have a specific economic development line item, this $1,000 could come from our community development support services. And staff would recommend covering this one-time cost of $1,000 to partner with the Chamber and Lions, just to promote trout days and to draw people to our community for years to come. So.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
One is, you said it can be used for now. What are the plans for it right now?
For how to use the marketing materials?
What are we gonna do with it? Right now, we get it on May 4th. What are we doing with it? What's the
I
plan?
think it'll be updating website, definitely social media after the event. You know, it was a success. You know, here are some great photos. Here's, you know, the groundbreaking for the Lions Pavilion. You can watch it if you weren't there. Kind of thing like that. I think the Chamber wants to use it on their website as well. They want to use some of those materials. And I'm not exactly sure. I'm thinking Trout Days would probably, or the Lions Club rather, would want to update their website as well. They don't have a whole lot of photography featured on the website, but.
Then my second question would be, the town of Middleton
Yep.
gives the chamber $5,000 for tourism, because that's what it has to be used for. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why they're not picking up the whole cost with that $5,000 that they got from the town of Middleton,
Yeah,
since it fits right in there. So I guess,
I think they have it earmarked for something else. Okay, yeah,
The $5,000 is not all of it, actually, I think $3,500 of that is used for the bands that they get for trout days for the whole day. And $1,500 is actually used for the creek monitoring station. They help with, so. That's what we find.
okay. Bill?
So is it videos or is it still photography or is
it's
it both?
both. It's both.
And-
With like
and-
drones and stuff.
Yep.
And so if it's videos, is it a series of videos or is it just a 1 minute, 2 minute video? Do you know what they're planning?
Mike, do you want to talk to that or
Yeah,
speak to that?
in general, what the chamber was looking for, what Trout Days was looking for is being able to come up with some marketing materials to bring people into our community. And the only way to really showcase what's happening out there and trying to expand on services or opportunities for people is to be able to showcase what we currently have and then use that to get out into the community, get out into Middleton, you know, try and bring more people into our community for that day. So we'll get you the whole day. He plans to do a time. There'll be, you know, kind of a, if you've ever seen those for marketing purposes, there'll be time lapse throughout the whole area there. Throughout the park area to start, and then we'll move on into the North Parkway area for all the other fun stuff.
So I mean, so if this is gonna be primarily promoted on social media, is what it sounds like.
Social media, village, yeah.
And
village
I mean,
website.
websites, right, that type of thing.
Correct. It'll be on the new chamber website as well. I
Right,
haven't been to that yet, take a look at it.
so.
We're just trying to really provide more for people. Everyone's always asking like, well, what is that? What is that? What does that entail? So they'll have the duck races going down, you know, they'll have, so people are asking like, what are those? So we want to be able to try and showcase that. And then other thought process is that we are an Ice Age trail community, but we don't really do anything to say that. I don't know if you've seen on like PBS or other news stations, but they'll have, I know for instance, Baraboo did one. I mean, there's a lot of communities that are doing it, but it's like trying to showcase your community and why you're an Ice Age trail community. We're trying to use that kind of information, use all of the stuff we're getting from Derek to be able to showcase some of that information. And we felt like $2,000 is a pretty good deal for a whole day of him putting all.
Oh, I agree. I just want to make sure that, well, you know, that's a good investment for us. And that's why I was asking about the size of the videos, if there's 30-second videos, if there's a minute video, if it's a 5-minute video.
The whole thought process was to try and do quick videos. They were actually gonna do piecemeal a few of them because that's what keeps people's eye. If
Exactly.
it's
that's
too
what I-
long, they don't want anything to do with it. He actually provided that information for us when he came.
Okay.
More quick reels, kind
Perfect.
of what he's thinking to begin with, but there could be a longer video showcased on
Yeah.
our village website, on the chamber website, and then little snippets of that coming out into Instagram and Facebook or other.
Okay.
And the whole hope is to use that future, bring people out here in the future and how can we do that.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Oh, go ahead, Sarah, then myself.
so the way I'm understanding it is that it's not like it's just one video, we'll have like a collection of media, right? So we'll have stills that we can use for paper, and I am very familiar with his work, I've seen some videos he's created for other groups, and he's very experienced in it. So I feel very good about the quality of it, but I appreciated the asking about the planning for it, so. I think just a side note, I think it would be good to maybe connect with some more of our influencers in the area, like maybe they would kind of make use of some of this too.
Sure.
I know there's a few right in Cross Plains that would be very helpful.
Well, and since we're looking to use public dollars, what was the selection process for them? Did you, because I know there's other citizens that do videotaping and I may be hearing, so I'd like to know what the selection process.
So he came to the chamber stating like, I would really like to offer this for our community. But his offer was a lot more than what he's currently looking to provide. There's a lot of other options that he had out there that the chamber stated like, well, we don't have the funds to be able to complete that. And they were just hoping to be able to partner with Village One. So nobody else was solicited. We did not do a proposal. This was something that kind of came up in the last month or so, I'd say, and in general, it's someone in the community. Thought it'd be a good- No, it was not. Not done proposals, in which we could put out a request for qualifications, but we have about 6 days.
No, I,
5 days.
I'm just,
Yeah.
anytime you use public, all businesses should have the same right to do it, you know, it's not who comes
Yeah.
Right.
first, so I just want to throw that caution out there, because in this case, you know, I can think of a couple people that are at that professional level, and
I agree, and this is
So
why the chamber's proposal, and they came to the village to say, hey, would you help?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But,
But yeah,
you understand,
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't-
Yeah. If we were to do anything larger scale, obviously, you know, anything beyond this, we would go out for bid.
I'll make a proposal that we, support the proposal for Creative Look Studios. For, 12 day.
I'll second it.
Right, I have a motion and second discussion. Bill?
So going back to the funds for this, Charlie,
Yeah,
that the funds are coming out of which account?
it would be community development support services. So that's where we have our funds for like Sonia for Vandewall
Okay,
and Associates. So we thought that would be the best fit since we don't have an economic development specific.
pulling $1,000 out of that account, what's that gonna do to that account?
Do
I
you?
think that account has 15 or 20,000 in it. And most of the stuff that gets quoted to the account gets reimbursed by developers.
Okay. Well, financially, it's not gonna, well, I'm hearing it's not gonna hurt. us.
No, it's $1,000, yep, $1,000.
Yeah, we're comfortable.
Okay.
Where are we at with the rooms tax from the one business that we should be paying? Where are we at with that?
So I've had some conversations with her. She works through Airbnb to rent that, and she said there's some confusion there with. Airbnb collecting that. They act like they have no idea what she's talking about, and they don't have any other. Rentals that collect room taxes, and so I told her to reach out to them again, see if she could talk to someone else. I said, call the Department of Revenue. So I should follow up with her. I have not gotten a first quarter report.
So we don't have an idea of how much that could be. What about the other Airbnb?
So I finally got a hold of someone, thanks to Paul's suggestion. I'm going to get an address, and so, there's a house on Gills Way that was showing up on Airbnb. And it's owned by an LLC, and so anyway, the management company reached back out to me and she's like, hey, we don't rent this on, she's like, we have a long-term tenant in there, they have a year lease, she's like, this isn't a short-term rental. And I said, well, I'm really confused because they're on Airbnb is. And she's like, oh, I'll look into that, and she's like, our tenants aren't supposed to be renting out their houses. So anyway, it's taken down now, I checked, it's not available on Airbnb anymore. So I'm gonna follow up in a couple of months and check and see if the tenant that lives there puts it back up, but. Let's see.
I don't remember our room tax rate, but I doubt even if the one on Airbnb was booked for the whole first quarter, that we would have generated $1,000.
I don't know, it's 8%.
I don't think so, but.
Maybe throughout the whole year.
Yeah, but we're not at the whole year.
Yeah.
No, the money will go into a separate account for tourism.
Mhm.
And that's,
Yes.
Yes, if we're still in discussion, I support this, I think it's fine as long as there's legal risk. That was my only concern reading through this earlier. Specifically what you said with RFP, like that someone's.
No,
Or not.
it doesn't meet the standard that we have to. I think it's good practice.
Okay,
Right.
You wanna be fair, right?
no, I agree.
And yeah, like I say, I think the idea, and if it actually goes through and we use it for what they're suggesting we use it for, I think it's a good investment. I just have a difficulty with the process. That's where I'm concerned, because I'm pretty sure I'll hear about it. So I'm just trying to debate if $1,000 is a big deal or not. I just think we gotta be careful when we use public money, that if there's an opportunity for the public to be part of that. Bill?
So the money is for Derek Look, however, it sounds like it's the Chamber of Commerce that's requesting $1,000 from us. Not Derek Look.
You can filter it to what, any way you
I
want.
understand that.
I'm telling you, because I can think of one person that actually, proposed doing something like this in the past, so I'm just throwing that out. You can cover it that way. It's tax dollars going to this business, that's where it's going. All right, we give the chambers $10,000 plus another 5,000 from the town of Middleton that we arranged, so they got the 15,000, that's their money they can do. This to me is above that, so they're asking for our money.
Right.
They're asking for us to fund half of it. I don't care how we loop it around, to me, that's the bottom line. All right, anything else on discussion? Anybody else wanna say anything? All right, let's, why don't we do a roll call vote? Let's-
Trustee Brad,
No.
trustee Borcar,
Yes.
trustee Brochus,
Yes.
trustee Paul Mikowski,
No.
trustee Portland,
Yes,
trustee Cavalier,
Yes.
president Lincoln.
No. All righty, it passes. So we'll move through. Number 4, discussion and possible action regarding adoption of the 2025-2029 Village of Cross Plains Parks and Open Space Master Plan. Mike. So what we're gonna do here, don't do a motion right off the bat. Let's get all the questions answered that you have or suggested changes, and then we'll just do kind of a hand vote on the changes, and if the majority, then we change. If not, then it stays the same, and then at the end of that, we'll pass the whole plan. Does that sound workable to everybody? And we'll probably be doing that with a number of these. So does anybody have questions? We'll start with questions on this master plan. All right. So does anybody have suggestions for changes? All right, I have just one suggestion for a change. I brought up a plan. So if you go to your page, 123, or I guess 24 of that, or 122 of 123 of the packet. That's to me easier. It's under policy. I think that's chapter 4. And this is, go to number 12.
Wait, which?
Okay, we're in, go to just page 123 of the program. Look up here for where it says 123.
Even says it.
Okay, well, it says 24 for the pages.
120.
Yeah. So it's under policy, it's number 12. And the village shall concentrate on providing facilities for lifetime recreational activities. These are activities both young and old can enjoy, such as horseshoes, volleyball, hiking, jogging, skating, pickleball, and tennis. Our major facility that we're looking for Parks and Rec is a pool. So I think we either just take out the examples or throw swimming in there. So at least our, huh?
I feel like baseball, because Bear Park's one of our biggest ones, can we do that?
Well, no, this is for future,
Oh, for future.
Concentrating
I get it.
lifetime sports.
I recommend just taking them all away.
Take them all away and just leave it as lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially pickleball, I mean, what
Right,
came up
right,
in just the last couple of years,
Yeah.
you know.
All right,
Well, I know.
all right. Raise your hands if everybody agrees with making that change. All right. Mike, can you make that?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then the other one is more of a comment, and just make sure everybody is on the same page, and that is chapter 9. Unfortunately, you get the exact page.
It should be, well, not for you.
It's it used to be 68. I don't know if that's,
56 if you just have that open.
Okay.
I don't know about the.
It's like 146 in the PDF.
well, yeah, but hang on, it's
That doesn't look right. It's my 146.
Chapter 9.
Page 155, page 59.
well, yeah, it's chapter 9, but that's not
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I'm looking for the impact. What
Yeah, right there. Yep, you're on, she's on it. So
Just-
there should have
It's
also,
page
just to clarify, Jay,
58.
yeah,
you have questions at the plan commission meeting and I did get answers for such. So.
it's not that
No, you were asking about the number of acres.
yeah, but that's not what I'm
And then-
satisfied with that.
Okay, and then the second one was the assumption in regards to the pavilion bathroom.
Nope.
You were right on that.
Oh,
So, instead of 50,000, that's actually 500,000, which changes the dedication considerably. Just so you understand, so that's part of this exhibit A memo that I put in. I don't know if everyone's able to read this, but it's in the. That has a significant increase actually in the dedication or in the cost that we were talking about before. It actually went up by $600 or $700 rather than down.
okay.
So just so.
My big thing is E. That's what I'm looking, E.
Okay.
It's the impact, and we talked about this.
Yeah.
I just this is a snapshot that they came up with. You know, and we're not gonna get in a big debate. I'm gonna leave this as, I think a house in Cross Plains now, a new house, where the impact fees will be, are in the 400 to 500,000. They got an interest rate of 5%, you know, interest rates are almost 7 right now. So I just wanna make sure everybody realizes that, you know, these things have a big impact on, and you gotta remember, we do water impact fees, we have connection fees for liquid and solid. So when you look at all the impact fees, we're well over 10 grand. So I just want to make sure, while this is a snapshot of just the parks, when you add that to all the rest, it floats, in my opinion, that it's not, it makes it harder to afford houses. So I just want to point that out in here, that, you know, to me, the numbers are a tad low on the average, and then how it affects people's mortgage rates and stuff. So it's just something I want people to be an interest and keep in mind that, that is something that we should probably be discussing in the future. On the impact fees. All right, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything?
No, I agree with you on your assumption on that, it's, like the dollar amount and so forth.
Yeah,
But it is.
but it's a snapshot. Who knows what happens? That could all happen down. But anyways,
So
just-
most of that is also based off of the census.
yeah, I know, but
That's
The
always
census, see-
it's gonna change.
right, but the median home, when you do census are already, we don't put impact fees on homes that are already built. So what should be
Correct.
really looked at, what is the median cost of a new home, because that's who absorbs the impact fee.
Which is true, it just changes so often.
Yeah, I understand that, but
So,
like I said, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. It's a point of interest that everybody should just
And
have that in mind.
And I just understanding this as well, the impact fee is all based on state statute. So what most people do is use the census information, the earliest census information, to come up with how their formula works out, which does tend to be a larger increase from time to time because of where and or if you have affordable housing at all. Doesn't.
All right, do I have a motion then to accept the 2025-2029 Village of Cross Plains Parks and Open Space Master Plan?
I will make the motion to approve the 2025 to 2029 Village of Cross Plains Parks and Open Space Master Plan.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, the same. All right, thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Thanks for all the work you and your team did. Thank you. All right, number 5, discussion and possible action regarding a recreational agreement with Capital Off-Road Pathfinders Mountain Biking Advocates of South Central Wisconsin. Why don't you take lead on this again,
All
yeah?
right, so about a year ago, the Cross Plains chapter, Ron Bukowski had come with a proposal, conceptual plan and idea to increase the opportunities for mountain biking within our village conservancies. And the one obviously that was chosen for that was Scenic Valley Conservancy. He came with that concept, the board seemed to be for it, so we've been working over the last 6-8 months or so to come up with what that recreational agreement states. And it, we already have an agreement with Corp for the current Driftless Downs mountain biking area, that's up off of Cedar Glen Hill and Cedar Glen Conservancy and Cedar Valley, Glacial Valley, sorry. That agreement does upend here in October of 2025. So the plan was to more or less put a lot of that information, that same information in the current agreement set forth through tonight. And in regards to expanding the strategies out to the Scenic Valley Conservancy. We have met with one of the trail builders out there just to kind of lay out where it could go, the thought process of where things could go. So it is feasible for the most part. And everything to date will be put together with volunteers and or have them do some internal and external fundraising for this project.
Just a question. Are we extending the current agreement then to go past October? So we're doing like a year, right? Because it's in there that it still says October. And why not why bring it back in October again?
So the previous agreement would
Right.
come back in October no matter what, unless
Right.
we decided to. We'd have to write them a letter stating we are going to upend this agreement and go with the new one. So it can't replace it right now unless we were to do that. So I said, let's just keep that current agreement, the October 15th one.
Okay,
And this one will supersede that going forward. That's what we agreed to.
so what are we gonna be doing in October?
Nothing.
So we'll just let that one expire
Correct.
and then this one then kicks in when that one's no longer around.
Correct, the extra information, this one goes further than that one because.
Yeah.
it's out in Scenic Valley, that one doesn't, but everything else is pretty much the same, so.
Okay, I just was wondering what the strategy was. All right, Judy,
I'm just asking that time. Does our lawyer need to look that over at all?
He actually came up with this,
Okay.
that's what takes, 6 to 8
You left
months. It goes back and forth a few times, so.
That was-
any other questions? Cameron?
Not so much a question, I guess, just, I like this, when they came and they presented this before, I like the idea, I like the concept, there's obviously still. Well, all the cost stuff is TBD.
Yeah.
You had said there's volunteer work, and I'm assuming they're gonna be looking for grants and all the rest, but,
Yeah, the plan and goal will be both of us kind of work together to come up with some grants. There are a number of, biking opportunities coming in the near future, especially in Dane County. So the hope is this agreement more or less is showcasing that the village and or corporate are willing to work together as two entities to provide more opportunities in Dane County. So that's what we're looking for.
Bill?
Has parking been an issue, or has everyone been pretty much following the rules of parking in Bourbon?
Yeah, parking's been great. We haven't actually had any complaints. It's really funny. I don't know I know Bill was on the board years ago, when this all was coming through, and we had a lot of people in here and people were, complaining and saying they didn't.
We were all here.
One of those main people, I'll say her name because she was a trustee at the time, was Sarah Francois. And since then, Sarah has written me 2 to 3 emails stating, Mike, I'm sorry that I was so against this. Because my sons both mountain bike and I think it's the greatest thing that happened here in the village of Cross Plains. So it's kind of nice to see that come to fruition, when someone comes against it. But in general, the neighborhood, we haven't received any complaints. Corp in general, especially a shout out to Ron Towski, Mike Cliff, a few others in the community. They just had a work day on Sunday, so they're taking a lot of their own time to go out and make sure that they're doing regular maintenance on the trail as well. So if we could come up with a number of people like them to work on all of our other trails, we become along quite well.
Why is it that big dirt pile right there?
So they worked on that this last weekend.
Okay, 'cause I
So
wanted-
the entrance to the mountain biking area is very sandy, and so we put in clay at one point. They put in clay. They've now added some rocks and some clay with it. So hopefully it will hold up a little bit better. Yeah.
All righty, go ahead.
So we approved this tonight, is Jay gonna be signing this tonight, the document, like right after this is done?
That'd be ideal.
Okay, so what you were talking about, Jay, is it says in here that when it's signed, is when this thing takes effect, and this one will be valid for 5 years, so we'll actually have 2 that are both elapsing. This one is,
Right.
okay, just,
No, I knew that.
Okay, you
My
wanted to
only
set up-
thing is I thought it would have been cleaner, just replace the current one with this one, then you don't have, but I'm fine letting the current one expire. That's what I'm saying. We have 2 documents that say the same.
well,
Well, I mean,
this
one,
one has the.
yeah, the new stuff, but the old stuff is the exact same on 2 documents.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. All right,
Well, unless there's a thou shall not on the first agreement. That conflicts with the second agreement.
no,
There shouldn't be any confliction, but the only reason we didn't necessarily get rid of the first one was because if there may be a couple of things in there that pertain to like the entrance area that aren't in the current one. It won't give us any trouble, but it's nice that it's outlined right now with them having work days coming up and work days that continue, so. And we can always, I can bring that back in October and everyone can agree to it, or we can just terminate it.
I'll make a motion to approve the recreation agreement with Capital Off-Road Pathfinders Mountain Biking. I can't even say it for South Central Wisconsin, applicators for South Central Wisconsin.
I'll second.
all right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right. 6, Mike again. Discussion and possible action regarding approval to go out to bid for the pavilion in H.M. Zander Park.
We're here. The day is here. It's been a long road. I'd say we're, to this date, I will tell you, we're about 99.9% ready for this. There's a 0.1% still out there. That 0.1% is how we go about the purchasing of the Polygon shelter itself. So on Wednesday of last week, I received a call from Cheryl at the DNR asking more or less questions about what Sourcewell was. And Sourcewell was the purchasing agreement that cooperative purchasing agreement we were trying to work with, or we are working with, for the purchase of Polygon. She requested more information on it, mainly to state she wasn't sure, well, she was sure, but she didn't think, other people within her department weren't sure if this were to meet the bidding requirements through state statute. I think Jay brought this up at least a year ago, and I know we talked about it a couple of times in our department head meetings with Paul, and Paul didn't seem to have any problems with it at that time. Paul, meaning our village attorney. Since then, what Cheryl has requested is a letter from Paul or from village council asking more or less just for a statement or his interpretation that Sourcewell would meet the bidding requirements needed through state statute. To right now, I still have not received that letter from Paul. I was hoping to have it for the meeting tonight. But he wanted to look over everything closely today, looking things over just to make sure that it does meet. I know for a fact that it meets, or I'll say 99% of communities that go out to bid projects without going to bid, so using the cooperative agency to do their bidding for them, do this every day. And this is every city and village in the state of Wisconsin, Minnesota, California, it's everywhere. So I know it meets it. It's just that we need this from Paul before Cheryl at the DNR will kind of sign off. So tonight, what I'm asking for is approval to go out to bid, and then once contingent upon Paul's, letter expressing that he does agree that this meets the bid requirements. And if that were to be the case, we would then try and plan along that schedule to meet all the requirements for the bidding itself. So the authorization would be that we have a class 2 notice that goes out on May 8th and May 15th. And then we have to have 7 days after the 15th. So the 22nd is when bids would be due here at the village office. And then I would need a special meeting from all of you, or at least a quorum, to agree to do so, maybe on the 27th after Memorial Day, or the 28th, sometime shortly after that, so that we can approve the bids that process. If we don't, then we have to wait until June, and I do not feel comfortable waiting that long to get some construction projects.
All right, so just everybody understands that what we're approving is going to bid for the construction of it, not the actual item. So this is the company that basically puts it together.
Yeah.
Just so everybody's aware, and they're working on if Sourcewell meets the state standard, so I'm not the only one that worries about that. It seems like Cheryl from DNR is the same, and it is, because that's where you open the door.
Yeah.
So it's good. I'm glad she's checking, and I'm glad Paul's doing it. Now we'll have the documentation, so that should help in the future then.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion?
We'll make it.
I thought we had a motion. Oh, no, that was, sorry.
No, because we're doing discussion first, otherwise you put a lot of
No, I
addendums on it.
get it.
I'll make the motion to approve to go out to bid for the construction of the pavilion in H.M. Zander Park, pending approval from the village attorney.
No, we don't need,
Approval? What do we need from him then?
he's approving the structure part of it. We're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about the construction. So that document's been viewed by him. We're going out to bid to construct that. The thing with Sourcewell and the attorney is getting the actual pavilion. Do we have to go to bid with that, or can we use this source? So tonight, all we're doing is approving the bid for the construction part of it.
I will take that back.
All right,
We'll use the last part. I'll make a motion to approve. For us to go out to bid for the construction of the pavilion in Atrium Zander Park.
perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I have Bill and then Michael.
So I got a little lost in the documentation here.
Really?
Yeah, I'll start with
There's only a couple things in there.
the advertisement for bids. You have contract and bid deadline of July 25th, 2024.
Those are all highlighted, right? So
They're all
anything,
highlighted.
so anything highlighted is actually what will change. So once you give approval, then we can put the dates in. That meet what our specs and or what the state requirement. So
Okay.
we'll do 2 PM on, most likely I'm stating this, but 2 PM on May 22nd, 2025. That's why they're in yellow, so I can change those following you guys.
Gotcha. Okay. That's
Yeah. I should have stated that, I'm sorry.
All right, Michael?
Well, this was just looking at the engineering drawing for it, and I had forgotten to talk to you about it once or twice, because we're putting this electrical in there and it has electrical meter as some of the bid thing.
Yep.
But then, like, you walk down Main Street, right across that street over there is where the meter is for the streetlights.
Yep.
Every meter costs us $25 a month. Is there any way we can tie into that, run it under and bring it back through?
We would have had to tear up Mill Creek Parkway to do that.
There's an MG conduit under there. There has to be. The streetlights go in that direction from that meter.
So we had requested from MG&E a meeting to discuss, and the only spot that they came up with that was feasible was this spot up on Main Street, and they've already done it before, to be honest with you. Which is on like the corner of Main Street and Mill Creek Parkway in that parking lot.
Over there, over where it says that box is there. I know where I see,
Yeah.
yeah, where it's
Yeah.
high or
Yeah.
whatever on there.
Yeah, it's right here.
Right. Okay, well, just because there's a meter, just like
Yeah. on the other
300
side of the
feet,
street.
just right down the road. I'm just like, why couldn't we just tie into this thing and not have to pay for a whole other meter, sort of. What I was wondering about.
question.
Try to save some money there. And then just reading like. Coming in here, like with the way, this is just a quick question, like how the electrical conduit's now coming down, is it coming on the east side of that bridge and not the west side? Wasn't it moved over to the far side or
It's
no?
actually gonna be on,
Like,
so it'll be on the west side of the bridge.
it is?
Yeah, so it'll
Okay.
be on the west side. The plan, the thought process was, so we do have an addendum in here to add and or not add bollards. So
Yeah, I was
lighting throughout
gonna,
that.
that was like my next question.
It's an alternative bid, it's in there already. And this will be on the village board if there are excess funds, if the bid comes in, either it gives us an opportunity to be able to do that still.
To add that,
Correct. But as of right now, they were actually gonna do a bollard on each side, so they would have had to do some underground. But yeah, so Carly has,
those are the drill holes.
yeah, it's just, that's where the bollards roughly would be as well. There's another document as well, I think it's around your pages, mine's 201.
It's 398.
Okay, thank you.
Right, they're on the,
Between J and F, you see the J and F there. Keep scrolling.
It's right here.
they're just
Sorry, I
down
can't
there,
see
they're
my
just those four or
cursor.
whatever along that inside loop there.
Oh, yeah, it's I actually good call on this, because I see that he has it on the other side. Or no. Yeah, okay, it's on the west side of the bridge where it's secure, that's right.
Yeah,
The conduit will be running underneath the bridge. We did get approval for that. And then it'll go underground.
comes over, loops around. Okay, so the bollards will come back for an alternate. And I was just kind of wondering, because they're on concrete bases, though, these things are kind of expensive or whatnot, or I don't know what they are or whatnot.
Yeah, we'll see what they come back with.
Right, and I was just curious about placement along there as well. A lot of people in there don't. Run. I mean, there are gonna be these things right there right now. They're gonna be pretty solid, is what I'm saying. All right, well, it'll be interesting to see what the bid is, and what happens all there.
Right, anybody else? All right. I have a motion and a second, right? We did do a motion, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. Let's get
You have
this
one more,
done.
Mike.
We got another one for you, bud. All right, number 7, discussion and possible action regarding resolution to request grant funds and assistance from the DNR. Through the stewardship local assistant grant program. You wanna take this or you want?
I mean, I can, you can as well.
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, so with the new village hall and police station, obviously there's thought process within this. We have been conceptual ideas and plans. That this would also be a trailhead and or a restroom facility. Thought process through staff and talking with trustees and also the village president. This would be a great place for some grant funds to come in. It's a project, obviously, that there's a larger project that's happening with the Village Hall Police Station, but this is another great way to provide amenities that are right along our trail, right across from the #1 playground in Dane County the last few years, in Madison Montauk, Ice Age Trail, Xander Trail, Driftless Downs, mixed use mountain biking area. So there's a number of different users and people throughout our community, whether they be residents and or visitors, that would have an opportunity to use this facility as a place to rest, as a place to get information about our downtown businesses, and also a place to use for restroom. We're just looking for authorization to go out and search for some grants, more or less write for some grants.
All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the request to go out and search for grant money for the new location.
Awesome.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same, so moved. All right, number 8, discussion and possible action regarding village ordinance 52.06 sub C sub 4 ATV UTV hour. Chief? Thought I saw him here.
He's coming up.
Okay. Hello.
What do you guys wanna know?
I'll just give a quick summary and then we'll.
So obviously we've been dealing with the UTV ordinance since 2020. I just looked at the numbers. I was sitting back there. We've had a total of 24 complaints from the start of this initiative. Most of which were in 2020. There's like 5 or 6. 2021, we had another 6 or 7, but that was when we were trying to educate people about the law, because we got complaints that weren't actually against the law. Since then, we've had 1 complaint in 22, 1 complaint in 23, none in 24. Total of 1 citation, and that was a gentleman that drove up and down Main Street. And that was early on, I think it was 20 or 21. So we have had nothing for complaints. I mean, we do see them, you know, every now and again. I'll hear from communities like, those things are so loud, I would never want one. And yeah, that's why I don't want one either. But as far as law enforcement stuff, we are not. Thanks, Bobby. We are not addressing any kind of issues with them, and we haven't had anything. So we brought this to public safety, and public safety looked at it. Didn't take very long, and Cameron can speak on that. And they approved it unanimously and recommend that you change the ordinance.
And what exactly are we changing in the ordinance, so it's on the record?
Just the times.
Yep.
I don't remember what the old ones were. It was like 8 to 8 or something.
Yeah, and they didn't come up with whatever times. The times are consistent with the rest of the area.
Yeah.
So it's just to bring them, and they're sitting right there.
5.
Yeah, the current ones are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and the recommendation is to change them from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And that's consistent with all the area hours.
Alrighty.
I'll make a motion for discussion sake. Make a motion to approve the village ordinance on 52.06 to change the time limit from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
No, you're changing it to 5 a.m.
Right.
Yeah,
To 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
yeah, perfect.
Yes.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second discussion. Bill,
So, I don't have a problem moving the Overton window to 10 o'clock p.m. However, I don't understand the need to have operational hours from 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Why would it be unreasonable to ask this to be consistent with our snowmobile policy, which is from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
it's, I don't think.
I'm asking the board the question. We're up for discussion. Or,
I personally see two different, I mean, while they're both machines. I think you have the snowmobiles going behind people's homes and stuff. The trails are different. They're not on roadways. There's no different with an ATV or a motorcycle going through. You know, so that's where I see the difference. When you look at the ordinance for snowmobile, if I had one, I could drive basically, you know, through neighborhoods to get to the trail. And so to me, that's where I see a difference.
well, not really, because, so here's the ordinance for snowmobile, section 5204. No person may operate a snowmobile between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. except on an open approved trail or a village approved route for the purpose of gaining access to and from an open approved trail. So when we first.
Wait a minute, read that again. So that means they can go at any time as long as they're
Yeah.
going to a trail?
As long as you're going to a trail.
Well,
So-
then that's even
so-
earlier than 5 a.m.
Hold on.
Okay,
So when the club first came to us. And, you know, their idea was, we want to be able to open up the village, because we want to be able to get private trails. To go back and forth between communities and whatnot.
mhm.
Great. So if we're consistent with the snowmobile. Then the same rules would apply for the ATVs. No one can ride on the roads between, if we use the snowmobile, between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Unless they're going to a trail somewhere outside the village.
Well,
That would just be consistent with the snowmobile.
do we really, I mean, I guess it's gonna be me, then Judy, and then Cody. I guess, I remember a little different. I remember that we wanna be consistent with the towns and everything else, so people who are driving don't have to worry about what jurisdiction they're in for what hours. So to me, if it's consistent with the communities around, then it just makes sense. Why have an island where there's different hours?
Because the other communities didn't have this, we were one of the first.
Yeah, I understand. That's why we're catching up. You're right.
We're not catching up, the communities are catching up with what we did years ago, because they didn't have a ATV.
I know, but now they do, and they allow it 5 to 10.
Right, I don't understand why we need to have 5 and 6 a.m. available, but that's the only question I'm asking.
Okay, Cody and then Judy.
I was just gonna say, the reason why I'm for 5 to 10 is we have, the clubs posted signs, there's not a snowmobile ordinance signs posted there. Posted at every entrance to the village that says it, and they're gonna update them, so. I don't know why we wanna piggyback these with snowmobiles, just keep them separate. And snowmobiles are, the last 5 years have been ridden 15 days in this area, so. I'm for 5 to 10.
Judy?
To me, the ATVs are more like a car rather than a snowmobile, more than just recreation. And I have friends that are now taken to work and they work at PI. They work before 7 a.m. They work earlier shifts and they use it as a vehicle to get them to work. And we have businesses open earlier than 7 a.m. They're using it more as a vehicle, not just for recreation. That's why, and I would like to match all the surrounding ones, so you're not confused, like, oh, that's buried, so that's a different time, and that's whatever, that's a different time. Consistent helps, and again, I don't look at it as a recreation, I look at it more of a vehicle, a tool to get to where they need to get to.
All right, anybody else? We're not, it's not open, you had to be a public comment, all right. Anybody else? Otherwise, let's do a roll call vote.
Did we make a motion?
Oh, didn't we? I thought Judy made the
Oh,
motion.
perfect,
You
okay.
seconded.
Yeah, you did. I know, I get sometimes confused too, don't
Sorry.
feel bad.
Trustee Paul McCollum,
Yes.
trustee Borland.
Is that me? Yes.
There's too many last names.
What's a good for you for the name, Matt? Now I said we're gonna.
Well, see, it's girl in.
Okay.
Four cards. Yes.
All right, trustee Calhoun,
Yes.
trustee Bratton,
Yes.
trustee Borger,
Yes.
trustee Dorcas,
Yes.
and president Lightfoot.
Yes. All righty. We're on number 9. Report, 2024 Police Department Annual Report. Chief, go ahead.
Okay, so I would say this is something that I brought to you guys back in 2020. I'm going to continue to do it unless you guys don't want me to do it. But I think it's really informative to provide you information of what we're doing throughout the year. You've probably had an opportunity to look at it. I did give you a black and white copy to take home. Because this will be mark it up or ask questions later. Not much with the first few pages. I mean, nothing as far as our mission statement or our values or the old, nothing like that has changed. There's a little message for me, which changes from year to year. Just kind of what we're working on. The officials, nothing has changed. I think everybody is the same that was in that place before. You will see the organizational chart has changed. You'll see it next year. Marge McGraw resigned and Hannah Masters resigned, so we'll have those changes for you next year. Then you see all the employees, that has all of the things that we are involved with throughout the year, different committees, different memberships, things like that. I really push the staff to be involved a lot more than just policing and writing tickets and handling calls, but actually being more involved in the community and helping our department, since we are a smaller department, requires us to wear a lot of hats, and those are a sample of the hats that we are wearing. You go on, that the budget, basically I took the numbers that Bobby prepares for you, so it's just a copy of that. Just put it in here just so you guys can see what we're working with. Okay, statistics, this is what most people have questions about. I'm just gonna go down the list and then open it up for any questions. So you look at the list of statistics. Very nice picture, okay. The big one, I'm just gonna highlight the big one. So record checks, we are getting a lot of record checks, which we anticipate as we get more and more into call volumes, you're gonna have more records, you're gonna have people asking for copies of things. So our records are up, record requests are up. Our assist citizens are way up. So again, we continue to engage with the community. So the community makes a lot of requests for assist citizens, which is up 158 calls of assist citizens. We continue to partner with EMS and fire. This year we had 212 assist EMS calls, 37 assist fire calls. Assist other agencies is consistent. We're at about 52. That's any agency, whether it's the sheriff's department or another police department or another government agency, that's covered there. Our vacation checks are way up. It's 897. We check when people are gone on vacation, we check their houses. Our policy is not to miss more than 1 day, 2 days max. So we're checking their homes, we're checking the windows, we're doing that almost nightly. Or not nightly, we do it during the day. And then information calls continue to be up. We've hit a peak of information calls about drug use, and we're starting to see that. We've had Some suspicious activity information that has been generated. Again, the more you engage with the community, the more you're gonna hear from the community. Our juvenile calls are way up too. As you can see, we have 52. That's a lot higher than years past. There is a little to say that our juvenile calls, probably the increase comes from having repeat offenders. We have a couple of juveniles that we're dealing with on a repeated nature, just on different days. So that probably accounts for some of that. One of the things that I challenged my staff this year was to really work hard on open doors. And what that means is checking businesses, especially at night, rattling doors. And they obviously heeded the call, and they had 155 open doors, which is way up from years past. And if you go into, before I was here, it was almost non-existent. So the whole village, we just finished the business listing. So we have all up-to-date business listing. And we created a quadrant, so the officers don't have to check the same business all the time. They have to skip around. And all those businesses are in quadrants. And so then they check one set of quadrants and kind of move on. If they work the night shift, they're required to do at least 2 quadrants. If they work all the way till 6 a.m. If they're working until 2 a.m., then they at least have to do 1. They're finding plenty of open doors. I get a lot of compliments on that. People just oversee that stuff. And one of these open doors resulted in burglary. The officer was checking the door and he found somebody burglarizing that place. And that's why we really want to do it. So they're good for the community. Special events continue to go up. There isn't hardly anything that we don't go to. Actually, no, I can't even think of one. If there's an event, we're there. Somehow we're there. I create overtime or move schedules around. We need to be engaged with the community. We're up to 92 on special events. And we will continue to be, as long as we get invited, we try to be there. Let's see, traffic arrests. That's another thing that I really hounded on staff this year. Probably the #1 complaint I get is traffic complaints. We get a lot. Main Street is filled with cars and people race all over. You'll see that our traffic arrests are way up. There's 298 people have been cited in last year's time, which is a lot up from years past. And yes, some of those have resulted in not guilty pleas, and then we end up in court. And we haven't had one single trial. So it means most of it is settled in court. Traffic stops, again, that's just part of that. So total calls, we had 4,247 calls. I obviously have left out 2019. I'm only doing a 5-year total, but just to remind people, 2019, they had 1,600 calls for service. We have gone up every year. And I mean, some of our calls are getting a little more violent. The other day, I nearly got hit by a car with stolen plates and a stolen vehicle. I was dealing with them at Quick Trip and they nearly ran me over. So some of the calls are getting a little more dangerous. But we're doing well, and I am glad to report that Zach Esser, who was hired full-time, is about 2 weeks out from finishing the academy, and he had started his field training, so he's doing very well. I've had an opportunity to talk to his professors and the director at the academy, and he's scheduled to graduate. He's in line with everything that he needs to do. The significant events, you guys can read them. You'll see some of them are standard ones. One of the big ones we had here was an exposing case of genitals and a sexual arousal case. We've had several of those type of cases. Projects and programs, we continue to update the emergency operation plan. I really want to thank all the department heads for taking the initiative and making this a priority. They've all sent me their updates, and we're in the process of working on that. We're also in the process of working on a tabletop exercise that is slated to happen in September. So it'll just be a tabletop. Some of you will be invited to attend so you can see it and see how it works. We've got all the equipment to have it done. We've partnered with EMS and fire, and we've been working on it. Carly's part of our committee, and Mike, great. Mike,
Yes.
so we have already some staff that's involved in See what else. Drug take back was yesterday. We continue to receive a lot of drugs. Yesterday we had 75 pounds. Delivered to us, so it's quite a bit. Staffing levels, this is the same kind of numbers that we provided to you in the past. Last year I worked 290 extra hours. My staff worked 344 hours of overtime to cover, to maintain the coverage and calls. Several accomplishments, and then you'll see a bunch of just current pictures of us being involved in a lot of events and, me playing bingo, hanging out with Martha's Day. Handing out Christmas cards, doing all the things. Questions? Yes, sir.
Cameron?
More of a comment, can you scroll up just a couple pages to the overtime listed? So this is, I think, the third report, the Public Safety Committee gets, Chief Tony does an excellent job and brings this report to the Public Safety Committee, and we approve it before it ends up here, but this is, I think, the third year that we've gotten this report, and every single year there's a big discussion on this part here, which is that we are really pushing our police department, hard in terms of overtime, and especially Chief Tony with 290 extra hours. I just, if Chief Tony leaves, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble with our current staffing levels. I know we're right at the budget, right at the levy limit. I'm not, advocating for anything at this exact moment, but this is something that we need to keep top of mind. They do an excellent job, but I mean, they're doing it at a lot of expensive extra overtime hours. And if we are satisfied with the quality of the police department, which at least I can speak for the public safety department, or public safety team, we need to make sure they're staffed adequately, and that is probably going to be adding a head or two sometime.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. Thanks for all the work on this. Okay. Number 10, discussion and possible action regarding revised budgeting policy. You want to take this, Bobby?
So this is something we initially,
February.
February, thank you. So the changes that we're making, under the general budget policies number 2C, we changed, from 48 days to 28 days. Yeah, that on that page.
Okay,
So the numbers
just wanna make
there.
sure.
It was 45 days. It was Jay's suggestion to change it to 28 days. And then on the next page, the timeline change, we added just more detailed that out as far as the process. It was more condensed, just details more what we do each month. I think the old policy wasn't really in line with what we were doing in actuality, so that was kind of the reason for updating this policy, was to get this more in line with the practice of what we were actually doing. And then we did switch the order of wages and base budget, just so we could talk about making sure giving employees raises and stuff. And then we added number on the next page, number 6 and number 7 there are additions. So those are good. And that is the same.
All right, do I have a motion?
Well, I got a question quick.
Okay.
I thought 6 is different, is it?
I was not on the.
Oh, it
Just
wasn't on,
added.
but we did it last year.
Yes.
It's part of the budget process, but it wasn't in the
Got it.
policy.
If you remember, right, if you remember in February, we talked about, we had tried new budget process. People liked it, so we then just took what we're doing and update our policy, that's what it was. Because we were experimenting with things, so now this is the process.
And I guess just my other comment is, and I think Sarah brought it up to bring up the wage part earlier into the order of operations, and I'm glad that it's here.
Bill?
So I'm looking at the longevity pay program policy. I'm assuming all this is already approved and there's.
Whoa, you're on a different,
Or I'm on a different thing,
you're in the employee handbook, I
all the
think.
way ahead.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you're way ahead. This doesn't have anything, this is process, not actually.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Never mind.
All right, can I have a did we do a motion or no?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
there was a question before.
that's all right. Can we have a motion, please?
I will make the motion to approve the revised budgeting policy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. All right. Now we're at 11, discussion and possible action regarding draft employee policy manual. Let's not do a motion until we get through everything. We'll do the same process of people want changes, raising your hand. If we get the majority, then we'll make that change. Otherwise, we won't. Cameron.
I have like the smallest nitpick ever that we could choose to do nothing with, but there's a whole social media section and we list Twitter. I know that people are switching from Twitter to X, because that's their new formal company name. I don't know if we just want to remove it or we don't care. It's.
No, we should change, the bare minimum, we should change. Twitter doesn't exist anymore, right?
X formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Can we just put general, just because this thing's.
Yeah,
Or don't list them, you know,
Yeah.
like similar to what we did with the Parks and Recreation thing, you know, where we did list all activities. I don't care. It was just, that was the one little tiny
Yeah.
nitpick I found.
Oh, I see what you're
So we have Facebook, LinkedIn,
Give them
Yelp,
the
YouTube.
example.
So just delete this whole section?
I guess the idea though, it does just say, for example, so just so you know what they're trying.
We can do nothing. I don't care. I just.
Well,
I just
we
want-
gotta get rid of Twitter. I don't care if we get rid of it. It's up to you guys if you want examples or not. That's you guys, that's the younger generation. I don't know what you call it.
I mean, you could just keep social media, including personal websites and online communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it covers everything.
And they're all gonna change, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
we're not listing TikTok, but some people are calling that a social media now. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's get rid of the examples.
Okay.
I think everybody knows what that is.
Perfect.
All right, everybody agree with that? All right. Okay, Bill, you had a question. Now, just so you know, with this, I know you weren't here, but we are just looking at the language stuff. If it's something that has to do with the benefit, that would be brought up during the budget process. But if you have a
Okay, then I have nothing.
okay,
Okay, with that said,
yes,
where it says added MLK Day as a holiday that we're talking now, or later?
no, that.
It was already approved. We're just adding it in the policy.
Yeah,
Last year's the first year.
It ended up in these contracts and then we mirrored it. for
Yeah.
The employees, but. it
Yeah, that was like
officially- Yeah.
2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Otherwise, I got a couple. that-
All right.
No, they were, so the first one is 106, sub 2. And it's on other positions. And you're talking about, clothing, policy and, that includes the possibility of discipline, but
Okay.
it doesn't state what the policy is. And as someone that ran a policy committee for 7 years, clothing policy was the biggest rabbit hole we ever got in and we never got out.
Sure.
It's very, very hard, and I think you gotta be cautious, even on the top one. When you talk about appearance standards where the department head gets to make the call, you're gonna have people, well, why do they get to do it and I don't, because that's a personal preference of a department head.
Sure.
I'm not I don't have any language on this and anything, I just think. Personally, you gotta really look at what are you trying to achieve with a personnel appearance policy, because. It's a rabbit hole. We
Sure.
looked at tattoos to piercings to hair color to all of that. There's gotta
Right.
be justification. Now, obviously, police can clearly do it. You have to have a uniform. It has to have A, B, and C. That's why a lot of businesses stuff have gone to the business polo shirts and stuff.
Sure.
Cause then it's easy to say, you have to,
Wear the polo.
yeah, wear that. So I'm just bringing that as a caution, and what jumped at me this time, I didn't see it before, was disciplinary action.
Uh-huh,
So if you're gonna have potentially disciplinary action, you've gotta have it listed where someone knows what is acceptable and what's unacceptable. So that's just a comment on that. I don't, like I say, I don't wanna
Okay.
go down that rabbit hole again. It's very difficult.
in your experience, are folks getting rid of this policy?
Yeah, we pretty
Okay.
much, ours was like 5 or 6 pages. We originally, you had to cover your tattoo. Well, then people started to put tattoos on their neck. Is it really acceptable to have them wear turtlenecks during the summertime? To cover it, and, or, you know, there's just, and color of hair. All right,
Yeah.
you know how they do they were doing the tinge with purple and green. Okay, are we gonna do it? Length of hair was there.
Employee must be clothed.
Yeah, it's,
No, Jay, I mean, we still have, because like, we're not gonna wear tube tops to work. I mean, we still have that, there's.
but I'd like, well, then you should kind of share how you define what is acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Right.
I can speak for my company and we, do a very simple like business casual. And that's pretty much it. So that leaves a lot of, open whatever. The problem is, would we expect public works to be dressed like that? I mean, depending on what they're doing, no, like they're gonna need a lot more or less. Not everyone is in the office like my job. So,
Right,
some degree of like putting it up to the department head does make sense because they all have different jobs and stuff.
it does, as long as you don't get into color of hair.
Right.
Right.
I don't know what your policy is on tattoos and piercings. It's, like I say, I can understand saying no tube tops, that's pretty defined, right? Okay, what else?
We do have some, I gotta look ours. up.
Yeah, I mean.
No shorts.
You can look
I don't
around,
know.
shorts, no,
Sure.
we have that, no sandals,
Yeah.
obviously, open toe. You can do some of that, like I say, it gets difficult, and generally you do it. At least in a lot of things, for safety reasons, and like I say, you could do it for
Right.
appearance, but it's just. I just wanna throw that out when it's tied to discipline,
Mhm.
you just gotta be real cautious, I'm just throwing a caution flag out there. That's all on that.
Sure.
Please don't take away shorts. This 3 board members.
No, you're good. I was,
No,
for some reason, I was thinking of just women wearing
Well,
shorts.
Well, this is not for us either,
No, I know, but.
Yeah.
I hear what you're
It's
saying.
hot, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that too.
However you wanna do it, I just bring that up just so you're aware of it, and maybe you wanna do a little bit more research on that section. And then the last one, again, it's a pretty simple one, 2.08. Let me just try to.
And just maybe it might be interesting to look at the school district's policy for voting.
That would be page 505. So again, when you look at this, there's 2 4s. So the first 4 should be a
whoops.
3 for meals,
Okay,
unless you guys. And then the first sentence, of, both, for sure meals, and I thought it was one of the other ones. It says employees shall be reimbursed for actual meal costs incurred while performing village business. Then the second sentence, the employer will be reimbursed up to the prevailing per diem. So you gotta get rid of that first sentence, or you have 2 different standards.
sure.
And I thought that was in one of the other ones too, but it doesn't.
Is it lodging?
Yes, okay, lodging, yep, you hit
I
it.
have the same
Same
thing,
thing, remove the first sentence and you'd be good.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep,
Cause we're
because
saying
it's
2
kind of
things.
contradictory.
Yeah. And then just change that 1 4 to a 3.
No, and lodging shouldn't say that we're only gonna do it to the meal rate.
Oh, yeah, because lodging isn't a meal, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you
Might be a little more.
be a real cheap hotel.
Yeah. So those are,
Okay, thank you for
and
catching.
are
that. I
everybody
appreciate it.
cool with those changes?
Oh, I was gonna say,
You guys all right with those changes? All right, so, when we approve this, considering those changes?
Yes,
Okay.
there was one additional one that I just wanted to make you aware of that we talked about at our department head. Just about break times. Break, oh wow, there's,
15 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
15 minutes is no longer a standard.
yes, that is, I'm just trying to figure out what page it was on. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here. Not here.
What's that break time?
It was, this was for nursing mothers.
Oh.
So not that section. Does anyone have a page number by chance?
What is it under?
It's like
Office hours. or-
office hours? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Well, we'll find it eventually. Sorry, everyone. 481.
I thought it was
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so the normal work week. So we were looking at the DWD, and the state law no longer requires rest periods to be provided to employees. They're still recommending the 30-minute lunch. So our recommendation is to change it so they get a 30-minute paid lunch, and then we omit those 15-minute breaks. Because right now it's like, I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah.
menial thing, but we just
So
wanted to
currently,
update it.
right now, the lunches are unpaid, the
Correct.
breaks are paid.
Yep, and we
So
just
you
want
wanna
to
get
switch.
rid of the breaks and put it into a paid lunch.
Yep.
okay.
But then are they here 7.5 hours? Are they working 8.5 hours then? Are they working 8 and then still taking a half an hour break? And they get paid 8.5 hours in a day? Or they only work?
No, they work 7.5, they get a paid 8.
7.5,
paid.
so they're not going to.
Isn't that like a Department of Industry, Labor, Human Relations law?
For the
Well,
15-minute breaks,
Change.
they changed it.
They did.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always thought it was,
Yeah, it's not even required that you give a lunch break anymore.
well,
You work all day.
Well, I mean,
cops don't get it.
right, exactly.
Yes,
I mean, it's not required.
we don't get an official lunch.
Yeah, so we were just thinking we would just incorporate that into the workday,
Which helps with
So
our
you're
summer.
really only.
which helps with our summer hour idea.
They're working 8, but a half hour of that is lunch.
At lunch, so they're really only working 7.5.
See, I call it-
Right, because I.
That's what they're doing anyway.
But right now they're doing it with the 15-minute breaks,
Yeah.
that some people are taking an hour lunch now. Because they're rolling it all into one, this will just give us, the 30 minutes.
Anybody have a concern with that change?
so what does that do to the office hours?
For like the regular,
For staff here in the building? So if you're working a half hour less,
Yeah, but I think they stagger their hours already, don't they?
well, we generally, so here right now, we're working 7:30 to 4. And so. Yeah, I suppose it would influence, there would be an extra half hour, which could help if we did the summer hour thing. But
No, yeah, but what you're gonna have
If
to
you
do
could-
is you're gonna have to.
you can do 7 to 4.
Well, you're gonna have
7
to
to
split
3.
your, Renee's gotta come in and then Rebecca's gotta stay later, to cover that.
Right.
You just gotta,
So we'll
That's
just we'll have to work that out.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. We don't
But,
wanna.
yeah, there is
reduce
that
office
extra.
Hours because of it.
Yeah,
Right.
currently office hours are 8.5 hours,
right,
paid for 7.
So Bobby and I will work that out.
Yeah, you
I
just
never
got,
thought
yeah,
Mhm.
that should be easy enough to work
Right.
out.
Mine's for coverage.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a half hour.
Mhm.
That's what you gotta cover. All right.
That was the only other change we made.
Do I have a motion then to approve the? What are we calling this? The employee policy manual?
I can do that. Do you want the changes listed or not?
No, I think we kind of did it,
Yeah.
so she'll automatically change them.
Do you want to see them again at your next meeting? Once
Well,
it's
we'll
all put
probably-
together?
If there's some questions for the budget part of it, so
Okay.
we'll be seeing it anyways. in
And then you
June,
can make
July.
those changes then.
Well, no, make the
needed.
changes now and make it a clean
Okay,
copy.
but if there's any additional.
Yeah, then we'll.
We'll
yeah,
address later.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve the draft employee policy manual with discussion changes.
all right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed, same, so moved. All right, good job, get this one off our
That's what we were.
plate for, we want, I was gonna say 3.
Yeah, it might be free.
All right.
So we are at number 12. Discussion and possible action regarding chapter 86, sign ordinance revision. I'm gonna let,
It's actually chapter 87. I have a typo in the agenda. I apologize. So I can give an overview of this. So this conversation stemmed from our, I believe it was our February meeting, when we had Kalsher Implement come in with some signage requests. So they were looking to update the signage on all 3 of their buildings. So those were the, the Kalsher Implement Company signs. And then in doing so, there were some compliancy issues with some of the smaller signs. So that applicant came to the village board as part of the appeal process that we have. And so there's quite a bit of discussion here at the February meeting. And the board agreed that the sign ordinance needs to be more business friendly, or some trustees did. So recommendations were provided by several trustees, and edits were made by staff to the sign ordinance. So I'm here tonight to recommend discussing those changes. And the recommendations that were provided, so there were 4 of them, and Trustee Borkland provided kind of the outline to this, and then President Langfeld and I discussed further. So first recommendation was to use business throughout the chapter to alleviate the confusion with building. So that was something that we wanted to address throughout the sign code. Also, we wanted to make sure that alterations making non-conforming signs more compliant were easier to make happen. So there were several sections that we outlined below. I have them listed. Go ahead, Jay.
let's take some of these, so we break them up, so
Sure.
we're not too
It's
confused.
not too much.
Yeah, so does anybody have concerns with making changes from business to building?
Well, I know I had sent the notes, but my only concern would be like Kelchers has got 4 or 5 buildings.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
address that, but,
because they should be able to have signs on all their buildings, but,
well, they would if they had business, if it was by business. Cause they have multiple businesses.
okay, we just got messed up with that one building that was glued together.
Right.
Which is a weird edge case.
The business would help on that, because then there would
Yes.
be separate businesses versus a building, but anyways. So that is one, and again, I don't think we're looking tonight to just actually hammer things down. We've done some research, we've heard feedback, now we're giving you some options. As we move through this, you're gonna see, and then we'll have that discussion, then we can go through and actually do the fine tuning. So one of the things is to make it a little bit clearer, is going from using the word business throughout versus building. Bill,
I don't understand, I don't understand why that's clear. I understand, like you look at Northwest Dayton. They got a building and they got 2 signs, one on each corner of the building, right?
that's not where the problem would be. Let's take the mall. We have multiple businesses in one building.
Right,
Okay, so, all right, then you have Kelchers that have one building that looks like 2 buildings, but they're connected, so one could say one building, you have 2 different businesses there. They're owned by the same people, but they're 2 different businesses.
okay,
So that's what we are trying to get around is, let's define what we really wanna do in that. So there is a difference in there defining building and business. Business opens it up a little bit more than building.
but don't you also run into issues if a business is being run out of a home rather than out of a commercial business building?
Well, there's a section for that. That has nothing to do with a building or a business.
It does.
How does it
A business is a business, whether it's run out of a commercial building.
No. You still gotta follow zoning code. We're not limited, this is the sign
I
ordinance.
understand that, right,
Okay,
right, but you're changing the verb, the verbiage from building to business.
yeah,
So business is very open-ended. I understand there's different code, the different zoning codes and whatnot in there, but when you say business, are you defining?
all right, okay, I mean, I'm
I'm
not,
just asking,
the way you're saying is someone could now put a business sign up on their house, and that would not happen. That could not happen,
why not?
because we have in commercial, you can't, in residential, you
zoning
can't do
districts.
it. It's a no, you can't, doesn't matter what the sign says. This is just looking at signs.
Right. So do we want to define this as commercial business versus, that's all I'm asking. I just,
Well, I think it's a good point, we can bring it up, so I see where you're coming from on that, I, like I say, I don't think that's really applicable to this, but that's all right.
just want to bring it up.
Yep, yep, no, that's fine.
Okay,
All right, so we have that, and then, go ahead, I don't have your.
You wanna go to the second one? So then we had several sections outlined where, we would allow alterations that make non-conforming signs more compliant. So like making a sign
Yep.
smaller.
So here's where the conflict in that is. You would think it just makes total sense if a person's gonna replace the sign and it gets more conforming, you can. Sonia brought up a very good point. Sometimes that's used if you have a sign that you just don't want in the village. You're allowing them to modify it without getting rid of it. If it says you can't change it with any modifications, then they would have to. Her example was for like Monona, they wanted to get rid of all the polygon signs, you know, the
Pylon.
real tall poles with that, they didn't want that anymore. So with having it where you can't, there's no gimme, they would have to replace it, then it would fall under current. So that is what you're giving up, is if you really wanted to get rid of a sign type or a sign, it's gonna be harder. Which was an interesting, a very valid and interesting point, so then I started to drive around, are there any signs I would wanna get rid of? I couldn't find any, so I'm thinking, okay, that is not a risk, but it's a valid point to be thinking about. You know, the case that came up, you know, Kelchers wanted to make their sign 6 inches smaller than what it was, which would make it closer to conforming, and, you know, the language says, no, it has to be exact. Now, on appeal, we changed that, but again, what do we want for the ordinance?
But is that something where somewhere down the road, you see that's an issue, but would you change it again?
Oh, we can always change,
Right.
but not once the sign comes up.
Right.
Once the sign is up,
Right.
then any changes, they're
Right. But I mean,
grandfathered.
I guess I'm thinking, so I just can't think.
I know, I'm with you, I couldn't think of
I
any,
just feel like-
Weaver one was one.
but isn't that a post one? That's a single post, isn't it?
It's a pylon, so I wouldn't be allowed in the village.
Yeah.
The way the Weaver pole is, so somebody comes in with what you're proposing, the way it is, and it's however big it is, and. If they want to now make it smaller, well, it's less non-conforming, but before they couldn't make it smaller.
Right.
Is what,
Right.
if you're using that logic.
So again, it's something to think about. You know, to me, at first, I thought it just made sense to allow it, but Sonia, you know, that's a valid concern.
Mhm.
I feel like though what we're losing maybe outweighs like this idea of how great it is that they're going to make it.
Right, no, I agree with you, I think that's something we have to weigh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, there's never gonna be perfect.
And making it smaller though is going to be relative, like, is it a smaller square? What if they make it a smaller shape, but it's an awkward shape, but it's still smaller?
Yeah,
Is that what we want?
well, like I say, those are the things, that's what we gotta think about, but we research some of this, and as we go through, you'll see. And there's some other ways we can simplify. What's the next one?
The next one I have is consider maximum wall sign wall sign square footage options for commercial and industrial areas.
So right now, we have 1 square foot for every 1 foot lineal wall space. Black Earth, they just do 500 square feet. That's it. Doesn't matter if you have 1 sign, 2 signs, 3 signs, 4, you get this chunk. Mazo has twice ours. It's 2 square feet per lineal foot. So there are some advantages if you really want to make it simple. I'm not saying 500, that seems like a lot. But it's certainly, if you did that, we could really, because it just says, hey, you can put up whatever amount of square footage of signs. You decide as a business if it's 1 big one, 3 little ones, whatever. We don't have to worry about how many signs there are, what side of the building they go on. It just kind of makes it extremely simple. So, and again, there you gotta think, okay, why do we have this sign ordinance? What is the goal and objective of it? You gotta kind of work through that, and then that'll help you work through some of these options that we're throwing out there.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
And the last one I have is allowing businesses under single ownership or unified use as additional signage. And I just had that you could call them like business required signs, so that was kind of, that came out of the conversation that we had. I kind of wrote like a little bit more into that, just calling it a sign. This was from a different sign code I looked around at. I think it was Middleton's. A sign required by supplier or dealer to direct attention to commodity or service conducted, sold, offered, or manufactured upon the site in which the sign is located. So you could do something like that. And then, I mean, you could also have those signs incorporated in that square footage requirement too. So like that wouldn't give them more space, but they could have those signs. And you could also like require them to, you know, have a form, say, or like a letter from the supplier or dealer incorporated in their application materials or something like that, if you wanted to.
So those were the issues we saw that were the main issues on there. So
Mhm.
like I say, you've got some options now. We aren't, I like keep it more as a discussion now, pros, cons. And then once we get kind of a feel, then we'll actually go through and I know she went through and made.
Yeah, I just made
Or the main
some
comment.
recommendations, just little
And that'll
comments on
help
the
you
side.
kinda to go through it, but I don't wanna go through this page by page until we get some idea what direction we wanna go, because otherwise we're gonna go in circles. Cameron?
I'm gonna say in general, I think. We gotta try to make it easier for businesses. I felt pretty terrible for Kelchers here. I mean, we had them here for a long time. And I mean, their signs looked very tasteful. You know, and we were just putting them through the ringer on, you know, this building, is it 1 building or is it 2 buildings and how many signs you're allowed to have? And this one is got a little tiny bit smaller, but we gotta make you now reapprove because it doesn't match the sign and it doesn't, it's not good. I mean, we want businesses here, you know, especially, you know, folks like Kelcher who've been here forever. We should have something that doesn't just put them through the ringer. It just, you know, and so I would agree, maybe looking at the 500 square feet, I don't know if 500 is the right number, but if we could like simplify it that way, so you don't have to worry about what face of the building it is in. You know, I would say maybe even like allowing the businesses under the single ownership. I like the verbiage you had for Middleton.
Mhm.
I would maybe even not include that in the 500 square feet, just because, again, you're a business and you wanna sell whatever, you know, what fertilizer, and that company says, well, you gotta have our sign on your wall to sell the fertilizer. I don't wanna be, you know, in the business of getting in the way of that, right? Like, you know, sell your fertilizer, get your relationship with your other businesses, put up a fertilizer sign. I don't feel like the government should be in the way there, or have you another.
No, but
step
you
and all
wanna
that
have, you gotta have boundaries,
Sure,
otherwise it'll look like Las Vegas.
well,
Well,
will it?
but that,
No, but
on one end of
Yeah,
town.
sure, it could, it won't, but.
I mean, I thought about that, the business required one. I mean, I want there to be a little bit of pushback, because otherwise every company is going to say, you must display our product, and then every product they. I mean, what you're saying is basically they could coat the whole side of their building.
With a blue building.
Yeah.
I know that could happen, but
Right.
as I say, I'm a big business selling fertilizer, and all of a sudden, I'm a little company in Cross Plains trying to sell it. And there, you know, I'm a little company and saying, well, my village board won't let you put up the sign because of the sign ordinance. I mean, the big fertilizer company's gonna say, okay, then don't sell our fertilizer, and that's gonna hurt the business, and we don't want that, right?
Right, I know, but there's gotta be boundaries, you know, you
Sure.
can't have, you know, all of a sudden you have a building that is just totally filled with signs. Because, you know.
I know, but is that gonna happen? I
Well,
don't think so,
You,
but.
you have to plan for that though.
yes, yeah, go ahead, Michael.
All right, y'all know that I'm like a big sign regulationist, and I'm not really down with a lot of this stuff.
Of course.
But, so I'm just gonna give you a little, so Brian and I were working on the Jack and Tabby's building, the sign for that building, right? So you go and you look at it, you measure the front was 60 linear feet, so they were able to have 60 square feet of signage, and they went right to the max, and that's what they have on the front. They initially wanted Jack and Tabby's to be larger words across that green facade on the front, and we were like, no, you have to have them smaller, and we got them down, but it's still very legible, very clear. You start blowing things up, you're gonna start to get signs that are oversized for the size of the wall where it looks in an appropriate like ratio is what you run one risk of when that happens. Also, on the other side of that building, at this time, we were limiting 2 signs per facade. And on the side, I think it says pet grooming and something by the door over there, like pet grooming and maintenance, or maybe just pet grooming. I never saw their proposal, but Brian said that they were gonna put 3 to 4 other signs on that wall. And he was like, you're only allowed 1. And this is where when you start to allow other signs, that building could have a ton of signage down the side of it. I'm just letting you know what happened as an example. I never saw what their proposed signs were. But I know that we got them down to what it was to conform with the code. So with retrospect of that, I do like the idea of building business required signage, which is like if you're a dealership, it's the one caveat that got us into the pickle down at Kelchers. And putting something like that in there would allow or alleviate a lot of the issues that happen down there. One, because they're a Coyote dealership, they're a Case IH dealership, they're a gel dealership, et cetera. It would allow flexibility, whereas we were just limited to the number of square feet on those buildings. So if you do that, you have to, like, if you wanted to have that one side building that only had 60 square foot of linear feet on it, and 60 square foot of signage, but they have probably 120 square foot on there. See, these get into weird exceptions, and I don't know how to handle them. But blowing it up and saying you get 500 square feet is just nuking the sign ordinance completely, and not keeping things in ratio with how buildings are sized. I'm being honest, it
No,
truly is.
The only thing I would say is you're right, and I don't think anybody we'd have to talk about. 500 does seem a lot to me too. It's the principle of coming up with a square footage versus this linear, and we are the lowest I found. I mean, the strictest. I mean, even Mazo has it 2
Yeah.
feet per square foot, so there's twice us.
Yeah, but
You
other
know-
places I found more restrictive, look at Verona and Mount Horeb, I think one of them limits to 120 square foot of signage per
Okay.
side that they could have, but they can use multiple sides.
Right.
But they also have a thing like it can't exceed 10% of the area of the wall.
See,
So you get into like weird things like that, also there's some that are based off of ratio of how big. the
see,
wall
to
is.
me, and that's how our window is done, right? The window
Window
sign
sign
is by percentage. I think that's another really good option, because that takes away this where you're worried about the whole wall being signs. What is a
Yeah.
reasonable percentage? And then people have the ability to do different signs and how they wanna use that. To me, that would is, but you know, you talk about Mount Horeb, if it's 120 square feet per wall, that's 480. So they're only 20 feet lower than the 500.
Yeah, but they also limit you to 3 signs max on one wall and
Right.
the whole building.
Right, but
But if you wanted to, I believe that's what it was.
But I guess what I'm saying is they've even opened it to where it's more than us in the sense of.
Yeah, but they might have a caveat, they can't have signs facing residential areas, though. I
Well-
didn't read the whole thing, and then you lose certain sides, though.
No, I understand that, but right, you know, at your statement of 120 square feet for 4 walls, that's 480. So. Yeah, Bill.
I want to go back to what you said earlier, is what's the purpose of this ordinance?
Well, that's what everybody's gotta kind of think about.
Right, and I think, you know, to me, reading through the ordinance and whatnot, it's really about aesthetics within the community. Making sure we keep that aesthetics and not turn into sign planes, sign cost planes. I mean, just having signs everywhere. So I think it's just a matter of keeping the aesthetics. We have to decide, that's what you're trying to figure out, what that aesthetics looks like, right? And how that becomes business friendly at the same time.
Exactly, you hit it right on. What is the goal and objective? And then what is it that makes it? Because right now, it's not real fair to the businesses or our administrator when we have this strict thing and then the appeals process and generally the board goes a lot with the client, and it's not a bad thing, but my whole point is if we're doing that, then let's make this where it's workable and easy so people will, one, comply and get a permit to do businesses if it's not where you gotta step through a million steps to get it. So it's something that I want everybody to think of because we are gonna put this back on the agenda but those are the four main parts that we gotta think about and think, do you go with square footage? Do you go with percentage? You know, do you do it, you know, how? There's a lot of examples out there, so, yes, Cody.
Can we get feedback from like the Chamber of Commerce? Because like everyone's saying Vegas, they're gonna put up signs. I look at it as a business owner, like. If let's say I had Zern, if I was a business owner at Zern, I want people passing by to know the vendors that I have. I'm not gonna put all of them up there, but I'm gonna probably put the ones that I make the most money off of. Like if I have a 30% markup on Owens Corning. That's the one I'm gonna put up. I'm not gonna just go and put the whole damn thing with every sign and everything I sell.
Okay,
Like,
I,
think it would be
I would
good,
think where
but-
the chamber could reach out to some of the business owners and say, what kind of signage are you looking for? And get that feedback to build it off of.
I have no problem doing that, but generally you, on a survey like that, what are the questions you're gonna ask?
Do you want more signs at your building? No? Okay.
But what does that give us? For changing the sign ordinance?
The ones that do give you feedback, you'd be able to see like, okay, they wanna put up 3 signs. Like,
I wonder if even just talking to the chamber, because I mean, they're going to be concerned about the aesthetics of the village too, so they. I mean, I guess maybe they wouldn't want it to be filled with signs, so maybe they have some information, I don't know.
This is all, you know, I've been involved in changing this ordinance 4 times. And the first time I did go to
Oh, okay.
the chamber, went to their meeting and asked for input. I didn't get any.
Okay.
Not to say they're not willing to do a survey, but someone's gotta put a survey together. And then hand it to them and say, can you get this out to your membership? And I'm not opposed to that, it's just someone has to write it. But if you're gonna do that and write it, then let's figure out what questions we want answered. Right? I mean, if, there's no sense putting all the work if we're not getting the data that we want to help work through this. So I don't know if we're at that point yet, but I can certainly think of some questions to ask, but I'm just not. I don't know what the turnout would be or exactly, but I need to know what you want from the survey. I mean, it could be a short survey. I mean, it's not hard. We have members that are on the chambers and they have an email list. I mean, it could be done very simply, but we just have to know what data you're looking for. Bill?
Just it's not off topic, but it's just a curious question. Looks like we're getting rid of pylons altogether.
That has always been, and the problem was all our signs were against our ordinance, that's why we added, that was the second time we added the 2 double post one. So the difference between the double post and the pylon is just height. But if you looked at all the village signs, we were all basically pylon signs until we went to double post.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, so I've had some suggestion to do survey to the chambers. Other people's idea on that, and if so, we need to have some direction, I guess. Unless you're comfortable with coming up with one.
I could try. I'm also meeting Shelby for lunch tomorrow, so I can float the idea, the survey
Sure.
idea.
All
There,
right.
'cause I'm
The survey, I don't know, I think you're right, we've changed the sign policy a lot in the last 4 years, or the last 4 times, not. Probably in the last 4 years as well.
Yeah.
I think we just put it in a position where it is a little too difficult for businesses. And I just, Bill, you watched the last meeting, maybe, Kelcher had a bunch of sign recommendations come through. They were all tasteful. None of them seemed crazy. They were, and it was just like, you hit this technicality and this technicality and this technicality, and I felt terrible. And we as a government policy maker, whatever, I just felt like we don't, that's not helpful to businesses looking to come here to Cross Plains. And so I think we just gotta find a couple things that we probably need to loosen up a little bit, where we can still have the aesthetic, but that, we're not just
Right.
walloping businesses with technicalities.
And we have to simplify this ordinance,
Yes.
and that would help.
I think we're making it difficult for them to actually make it look better. So that was, I agree.
I almost about fell in my chair when we had it looked nice and it looked almost the same. It was like, well, you gotta get this reproof because it's 6 inches smaller. And I was like, what?
All right, so. You wanna bring it, we'll bring it back in May, that's in 2 weeks. Can you think about the 4 areas that we talked about? All right, you'll check with the commerce to see if there's a value in survey.
Yep.
Come prepared to what information you would like from the businesses on a survey if we do one. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Is that a good next step?
I think so.
Yeah,
Michael.
that's fine. I have one question about number 1 up there, about when you talk about use business throughout to alleviate confusion with building. How do you mean?
Well,
like
Kelcher's is I'm gonna use Kelcher's as a perfect example. To me, even though it's one building, they're connected. You have a parts store and then you have a retail. They're 2 different businesses. One caters to parts for tractors and everything else. The other is a retail store, right? So to me, they're 2 businesses. So in this case, when you read this, to me, the ordinance, each one would be able to have 2 signs. Yeah, that's where I'm seeing the difference.
Okay, I get it. All right.
And what's interesting is how this is, you look at the canopy ordinance, that's done by percentage. Right? It's not lineal feet, it's done by percentage. It has to be this. So we bounce back and forth with these ordinances. And then we have one in there that you have to have some, I don't even know if you go to school, sign design expert or something. And I don't think we ever ask, who's your sign expert, it's in there that it has to be reviewed by. I don't even know if there's a real degree in that or something, I don't know.
Michael's gotta be close.
Yeah, Michael, Michael close.
He's got a document.
And I come up on the warrant.
There's that, like, do you need that in there really? Because none of us check on it.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Okay, so that's what you were needing.
Stamped
One
by
of
a
the questions
professional
you asked
engineer.
was if you're gonna hang a sign on the outside of your business, would you contact the village board or the village office, or would you just put it up?
Oh, no, you'd wanna get a permit for sure.
Depends on who
Yes,
you
that's
are.
who You're supposed to do, but I'm saying, like, if you're gonna serve it, that would be a good question.
Yeah, some don't, but this is where I'm coming from. If we're gonna update this and simplify it, part of this is also the enforcement part of it. We've gotta have people permit this stuff.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's call it red tape, whatever you want, but at some point you have to have the enforcement part of it.
Right, I'm not saying that.
No, I know you're not.
Oh, I got.
But you're right, people have thrown out, well,
There.
Kelcher's admitted that they threw them out.
Well, if we go to that area of business versus buildings, let's say it was Kelcher's Garage down at Kelcher's Implement, and we only have one product, is that gonna change what they can do if it's not?
No, because it's right now says building. I mean, again, these are suggestions that we talked about
Yeah.
and researched a little bit and trying to just clear, I mean, when you read this ordinance, they use building, business and premise. And they don't define them all. And if we're gonna define them, then if we're gonna keep them, then we gotta define them, because I'm not really sure what applies business or building or premise.
So when I've read and I read that, generally like with building is like, when I see that, I think of, you know, like Remington's is its own business and its own building, and it's easy to think of that. But when I start reading words like business, it's generally when I'm thinking it is like PJ's Pizza and the pharmacy together. It's when it becomes multi-tenant inside the same building, and in my head, that's when I start switching the ordinance and I start to allow more signage per business, even though it's in a building and I don't hold the whole building. We can't hold that building to just 2 signs because there's 3 businesses in there. That's where it
What we
falls
did for Kelchers.
Well, that was when that was being done, I didn't consider them 2 businesses because I didn't know. See, this is something you're bringing up now. I didn't differentiate them as 2 different businesses. I kept it as one.
Because we don't define things.
Well, I just didn't know it was considered 2 different businesses. I just thought it was this one business, this Kelcher's Implement, like, and it's in that
Oh.
building. I didn't think of it as a parts dealership and as a service.
Yeah, retail.
Yeah, I didn't consider it 2 different
They
businesses.
call
I
that,
considered it one business.
Like integrated center is like
Yeah,
another way,
That's what
like
Mesa
a,
does. They have that language and allows more signage then.
See,
right.
I didn't think.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's why we've got to do something with this. So think about it. Think about the ideas, what you feel the goal of a sign ordinance is. And then, you know, we've given you a number of options to think about to resolve some of the concerns that were brought up that night.
So if you're talking Kelchers as your example, don't they also own the building across Main Street? And that's part of which Kelcher business?
Yes.
I don't know.
See, that's when you go like building and specifically
Exactly.
on that building, it's 60 feet long. So if they were only allowed to put 60 square feet on it, they could put 2 signs, but they had 4 signs on the thing and they were up to like 120 square feet. I mean, that building was just was just still way over it for current.
Yeah, absolutely. I am not arguing any of the points you brought up on that. The question is,
But
do we keep that or do we modify our change? And I think the majority of people feel we need to simplify, loosen up a little bit.
But I did go back and he was asking that night if you moved the coyote sign over to that other sign and removed the 2, I think that would have been definitely not compliant. Like with the ordinance by moving it to the other wall.
Yeah, but just in general, I don't want businesses that have to play that game and come here and talk to, you gotta get Dr. Michael, sign expert with you to tell you which way to move the sign, like, it's just. it's
And the
not-
bottom line, those
it's
signs
too
have been up for gotta be years. I don't pay attention. I haven't heard one complaint. And the only reason it was brought up is because they wanted to change the signs and
And make them.
make them newer, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I hear, but anyways, I don't wanna prolong this too long, so think about it, come prepared, especially if you're in favor of a survey. Please come with some ideas of what the questions you'd like to ask business people, and you'll touch base with the chambers. And
Yep.
you can get her view if that would be of value or not.
Absolutely.
Are we good with this then?
Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And this goes back to that business building thing. So you're talking specifically about, no, we're just saying per business because we call signs on building signs, like you're planning, you wanna leave that definition alone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cause it's in throughout chapter 87. I'm like, are you doing a mass? search
No,
of
I
replace?
think we're
That's
just.
where I was like, whoa, this changes a lot of stuff.
This is
That's
not,
what-
we didn't go, like I say, we're not going through detail by, there are probably some in there that it's appropriate to keep building. All right, we're not saying,
Right.
it's.
Okay, well, that's when I read that.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but it was a general idea of replacing things where it makes sense, same thing with premise. You know, I'm trying to figure out the difference between a premise and a building, you know, I mean. It's just, if we're gonna keep these differences, we just define them, and there's 2 sections that define things. Not as well as I think they should, but. All right, we good?
Mhm.
All right,
Great.
now we'll go to 13.
Right.
Discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of Westview Park Playground.
You get one more of Mike.
My fault.
This is supposed to be fun, not about science.
Yeah.
Well, there will be a sign.
Oh, man.
There will be a sign here.
Can it be lit?
Oh, give us some policy for it.
I don't know, so like, put all these out. We do have a few, they are all. in the packet.
Okay, I can put them up on here. Oh, bummer.
You're one, I'm two.
Hey, I'm trying to get to the picture. No, they're gonna fall.
Right, well. They are all.
Too much.
So we received, so back in February, I requested to go out for proposals, which we did. Went out for those proposals, they came back in March. The Parks Committee did take this up and look at all the proposals. We received 3 proposals in time, with 1 proposal up after the time, so we did not include the proposal that was provided late, which happened to be Miracle Recreation. The proposals, so prior to going out for proposal, I did meet with a number of the playground companies, just to have them come out to the site, take a look at the site, and provide them with information about what we were looking for in regards to this playground. When we did that, they more or less stated, you can do that. What I would recommend is putting your, based on the playground equipment that we're trying to rebuild in that area, the square footage and the number of kids and people in that area. All of them recommended that we provide what we're looking for playground and do an addendum in regards to the playground chips and also an addendum in regards to the playground installation. So what we received, thanks, Lee, it has provided information here for the playground from Burke. This one here is Lee Recreation. Burke is the manufacturer of the playground. And the option 1 here that Elizabeth is holding on to is what the Parks and Recreation Committee recommended at the meeting. So within the packet, information provides you with the costs. Unfortunately, playgrounds have gone up exponentially, and they've gone up for years. If I remember correctly, we put in a new playground at Cedar Glen Park back in 2012. Sometime around in there for $50,000, and it's a fantastic playground. What $50,000 gets you today is about half of what we even got back in 2012. So within the budget parameters, I put it in there for the proposals to not to exceed the $50,000, which they came up with. However, installation obviously is something that is separate within that. So the installation is $17,528 more for this $50,000. So tonight, I'm requesting or asking to go with option 1 here with Burke with Lee Recreation. With the additional $17,520 for installation, for a total of $67,528.
So can you trim it instead of having 4 swings, just having 2?
There are 0 swings. The swings are just for pictures only. We kept the swings the way they are. So we've already cut things out and tried to complete this project at the minimal amount that we could. So these swings are actually just what we have there currently. We did a safety inspection on those swings. We replaced all of the hooks. We replaced the chains. We did everything we could to try and keep the price down.
So the swings are gonna stay.
Correct.
Okay.
So Parks and Rec's recommendation was option 1 here.
Correct.
And again, those are the swings that
It
are
is
there, so
our
it's
swings.
just,
There's this.
just the thing on the right.
Just this.
So what's the price difference between the 2?
These 2 are exactly the same. All of these that are provided within this proposal are $50,000 playgrounds. So in your packet, you would have seen 3 different options, 3 different companies. of $50,000 worth of playground. And what everyone thought and everyone came up with was that option one was the best, was the most playground, or it met all of our specs and what people were looking for. It also provides, you know, being out near Highway 14, that area, provides like a good visual for people as they're driving by to come into our community. We've already been known for the #1 playground in Dane County. We're just trying to kind of, not that this playground's gonna hit that metric, but it does provide a good visual and good opportunities for kids.
They can't give it like an age group like this, what this should be like.
Yep, so this actually meets all of them, so it's the 2 to 12. Normally you do a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12, and we try and separate those areas. They've really kind of gone away from that, just because I think the costs are so much more, so they're trying to include them all in one area. It also provides you with less square footage, so your fall zones are a lot less. But this kind of gives you the 2 to 5 based on this slide. And the 5 to 12. Large slide.
Cameron?
So I guess I don't see the installation costs on any of the quotes. Is that like, are we going with a different company for that? Like, no matter which option we went with here, or?
So I gave them, there's an addendum on each of the proposals.
I saw all of them wiggle the numbers right under 50, and then I was confused. Okay, I see the installation.
So if you look at all the playgrounds, that's the thing, they wiggle it into 50 because they're.
Okay, and then
is not getting. you
This one
enough.
has 18 and a half for the installation.
What's the thing in the middle on both drawings, or that?
This one?
Yeah, it's standing next to what?
Yeah, so that's a tool bench, so that's more of a, that's something for kids to understand, like how to use a wrench, how to use. So we tried to use different ones, so this one was a tool bench, actually, both those were tool benches, this one.
Do kids play with that?
So it's interactive play, so it's more like getting them to learn how to use things, so they're trying to use like everyday things that we want, or we need to do at some point in life, they learn a little bit better.
Are they
This one was like,
It's nice having, when you have something like that that's away from the other groups, kids with different needs, like they can get away from like the crowd and kind of do something. It's like we are in those play structures, that's pretty
it's also,
active, loud play. It's kind of
Sensory
nice to
overload.
it's
have,
also
yeah.
sensory, so they're
Yeah.
looking for like sensory things for kids. as well.
Yeah.
So do they spin? Do they
Those
move?
do, yeah, the bolts on it will spin with the wrench that they have.
Oh, it spins with
I'm
that.
like,
And they're on a cable.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just like, do they come off?
No, they don't come off. This one was another one. This was like you could take and move like different pieces of it, so it looked like a beaker, so you change it as science. So I think this one was, you match 4, so you try to match them.
Oh, okay, they're
So
like.
you play 2, yeah, 2 people could do it. More sensory helps out.
Yeah, okay.
So can we use the park improvement fund to cover?
Which one? From where? From Scenic Valley?
No, I was thinking,
Bear Park?
or,
There's no.
That's what I mean, that's-
Fair Park, the park improvement fee has to be used for the park playground park that it is dedicated to. The only way you'd be able to use parkland dedication money would be if you added more housing to Westview. So Westview at one point probably paid a park dedication fee. That was probably used for the playground that's currently there.
but don't we collect, like, we use park improvement for Bear Park, and that has been way, no, we haven't?
I don't know what, you'd have to provide me with more information.
So,
I-
Bear Park improvement funds.
That's not,
It's just
that's
the Bear
not
Park.
dedication, and that's just.
Oh.
No, I'm not saying, I'm asking if there's park funds out there that we collect from not from residential. I know we just had the big discussion on park impact fees, but that's for the new one. I'm talking about like in Bear Park, don't you collect, when they play baseball, part of that goes there?
That's-
Doesn't the pool?
That's a Bear Park improvement fund, so that's just for Bear Park. So you can use that money for anything in Bear Park. The pool is pool improvement fund, so that would be.
Those are the only 2 we have. We don't have a general one.
No, those are the only 2.
So where does the money? come
In the
from?
past, what we had done is use our own Parks and Recreation Department fund balance. But now that's rolled into the general fund
No.
for fund balance, so that's where I would suggest it. But We talked about it a little bit in that regard, but we didn't go into detail.
So we've not done the borrowing, you could either add it to the borrowing for this year, or the capital fund, does have some fund balance.
Really want to borrow.
About what kind of balances on our, do you have an idea? And the fund balance?
The auditors will be here in 2 weeks. So I'll find out.
Okay, I was just curious.
I will also state going forward in the Parks and Open Space Plan that you guys approved tonight, it states that neighborhood parks are at a minimum of $75,000. And those are base numbers off of like what things are going for in those neighborhood type areas. I'd say that's even probably pretty low for the type of playgrounds that we already have. But I also think there's a way for the village to maybe get creative and start talking about having developers put these playgrounds and parks and all these things in. And it no longer becomes a village issue of having to pay for it.
Well,
We have them pay for it initially, and then they don't pay the parkland dedication fee.
right, the only thing is this is the replacement one. That's when we keep building parks, that's even if the developer pays for them.
I know.
The problem is when it comes time to replace them, that's where, you know, to me, we gotta really be, do we need, you know, we've gotta look at that. This is a lot of money.
Mhm.
And if we only budgeted 50,000, now we're coming up with another 17,000. We got major projects coming up, you know, with Village Hall pool and stuff. Where are we gonna get all this money? And I think that's something, I mean, this one, we have to really seriously think about that when we start talking about parks and stuff. This is extremely costly. Judy,
I'm
And
asking
then-
that, Tom.
Yeah.
But do we have any idea like how much our parks are getting used like per park? Like Raspberry Park, when my kid was growing up, he was there all the time. Now I walk by it, I don't hardly ever see one. I mean, I'm just curious, do we have
It's,
any
it's
idea?
very ebb and flow. You have
Yeah.
new development come in and a lot of new families come in and then all of a sudden, like no one's really using it. That's a lot like what Raspberry is.
Right,
But then you have soccer now that's being played at parks, so then all the siblings come and they're playing it. So it really depends. And you have turnover, right? You have an older generation in one neighborhood and don't have a lot of kids using it, and then all of a sudden that's where the affordable housing may be at that time, and you start having more and more kids. Going into that as Melody and other parks now too, so.
That park tends to get pretty good use because there's a lot of kids that live in that neighborhood.
right.
because it's apartments and there's.
And there's
Oh, that
been-
part, yeah.
Yeah, at Westview, and there's been a rash of social media outrage about that park at Westview.
Yes, I've
So-
been hearing.
And I've been getting a lot of emails and calls as well.
Cameron?
I don't remember if it was last year's, I guess this year's budget cycle or the year before's budget cycle, but there was a different part, Melody, and we had declined to do anything with Melody at the time.
No, we did
No,
partial.
It's in there,
It's in
it's in there to do as well. What happened was, we got a condition report on Westview, and that's where all of our attention was to finish Westview part, because Westview actually is to the point where people can't use it, like it's rusted out, platforms are, they were in really bad.
So I mean, it sounds like we're at a point where we have to or close that park soon, if I'm understanding.
Westview has been closed since last fall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just have
The
to,
main place.
we have to have again, it's a budgeting thing where we can't just budget for the playground. We have to anticipate.
Yeah.
Everything, all the costs that go with it. Cause this install, how much is it gonna cost to put the bedding in and the chips and stuff like that?
Well, I didn't include that in there, I'm trying to use my own.
Yeah, I know, but-
To do that, but I'm guessing, I mean, it's probably, so we'll get a truck, so it'll be $2,800 to $3,000.
I thought I looked at one capital improvement plan at one point that had like parks kind of spaced out, like you'd already. kind of-
it's in
Okay.
CFP.
Just the dollar amount needs to. be-
It's just a dollar. It's always hard to come up with what that amount is too,
Right.
right? If you're replacing everything like at Melody Acres Park, we're gonna need $200,000.
Keep the merry-go-round, that merry-go-round's like.
Yeah, Michael likes that.
It's a great
But what
shape.
I'm stating is like, if you replace with what you currently have, our numbers are nowhere near what we're going to need, so then that discussion comes into play of like, what do these parks become? And or, you know, what are the capital improvement requests needed, or are there other ways to fund this stuff? We don't normally do well in any of these, playground grants because of our median household income in Dane County, it's way too high. So I tried to section it out once at Glacier Valley, to see if I could just use like different parts and of the community, and you can't do that. So it makes it tough to find funds. We do have a lot of parks and we do have a lot of playgrounds that are going to need replacement here in the next 5 to 8 years, so. Bigger conversation.
Well, we have a fair amount of money in the general fund, don't we, on the required amount?
Correct, so I think in May we'll do a recommendation to, you guys want, like last year, put the excess general fund into the capital, so we're borrowing less.
Right, yeah, see, I'm absolutely fine with using that extra overage to pay for the $17,000 and $3,000 for the wheelchairs. Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to purchase the Westview Park Playground with. Excellent stop there, I don't get to say where the money's coming from.
No, tell them what option you want.
Yeah, you probably want.
You don't have to say where the money's coming
Okay,
from.
purchasing our Westview Park Playground option number 1
From Lee Recreation.
from Lead of Recreation.
That's all you need.
Fine.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say. So move. Any future agenda items?
Something that,
Oh, wait,
Future agenda item, I was thinking,
Oh.
I was gonna, is now a time to ask if we could hold a meeting on the 27th of May?
no, we can put that on May 12th agenda, because it's not on the agenda, so we can't take that.
one of the things that's come up in the Parks and Rec, meetings is, you know, right now we have a development that's been 3 years in the making. And there's no park. We went through it also with the Evergreen Parkway about, we discussed trying to make it so when a developer comes, they either need to pay us for the park to put in or put it in prior to houses going up, because like when we had the visioning session, again, we had a decent contingent of people who live there who are upset because there's still no park here.
We can put that on agenda, that's a different way of doing it, but certainly. It would achieve some of the stuff. So we can put that on a future agenda, I would say probably not the May one.
No, it's
I
good.
think because we got, it's
Yeah.
only 2 weeks away and. There's gonna have to be some development for discussion on that, because there's a lot of play.
There's a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah, and I, you know, the impact fee, I understand. And I know Mike has brought that up a number of times at developers, I'm not sure what mechanism. They're using, if it's just straight development agreement, I don't know what statutes allow and don't allow, so I don't wanna. I think it's something for a discussion, but we definitely gotta research it.
Yeah.
We can't say, yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and then we find out that state statute doesn't allow it because of this and that, or you have to do this and that.
Well, our argument was it might help sell lots faster too, drive faster.
Oh, I, don't get me wrong, I'm all for that plan, I just wanna make sure I don't know how they actually do it, and I'm not sure every development is allowed to do it.
I don't either.
So that's all I'm saying, but we certainly can, maybe we'll bring that up at the staff meeting and see what, you know. What our experts say on that, so. Yeah, it's something definitely to look at, it would certainly save us a lot of headache.
Assuming we already got the summer hours as.
Yeah.
Yep, that's on my list.
Yeah,
Then just clarification, we're having a meeting on the 12th. Like,
that's our main meeting.
Okay, that's what I was,
Got
I just
moved
wasn't
up.
sure, I don't know if we said that at some.
Yeah, last meeting, we voted on it because
Oh.
our regular meeting is on Memorial Day.
Right, okay.
Couldn't
That's
find
right.
a slot that worked very well, so.
I won't be there on Memorial Day.
No, I think there'd be a lot of people missing. I think that's why we
It'd
moved
be a
it.
fun meeting on Memorial Day.
Yeah. All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and, second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.